Dirty Scrap Podcast.
It's always an honor to having you, and this is the second time. I really appreciate it. If I am not wrong, a year ago we had our first approach. I
I
think
think you're
mostly
right.
right. Yeah,
You're
it was
right.
pretty close to the ISRI show that now is REMA.
Exactly. We're having our first REMA show, and I'm really excited.
Oh yeah, we will be there, and I am totally agree with you that this change, something that is moving in the right direction on the recycling industry, right? I mean, is a game changer.
Yes.
So how you been? How's everything going?
Everything is going well. I mean, it's a crazy time, obviously, with everything going on with the
It is.
tariffs and complete shift in trade policy, global economics. So it's definitely a challenging time, I think, for all of us.
Yes, it is. And I want to talk about that later today. But before we get into those topics that are really, I will say, excited, right? Even if it's interesting what is happening right now, but also it's crazy. And we have a lot of that we don't know what's going on. And we don't have a clear idea about what is going to be in the future. But definitely we have some, I will say, advantages as well, pros and cons. But before we get into those topics. Again, welcome to the Dirty Scrap Podcast. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for making the time for all of us in the audience. How is everything since the ISRI changed to REMA? That is not an institute anymore, it's an association right now, and it's involving, I will say, if I am not wrong, around 1,300 companies in 40 different countries, and a lot of different industries, not just aluminum, but different type of industries. How is the new approach talking about ISRI and REMA?
Sure. Well, first of all, we're actually over 1,600 member companies now
Oh,
in over
there you
40
go.
countries around the world, which is great. And it's been the transition from ISRI to REMA has been incredibly successful. And to be honest, it's been more successful and adopted more quickly than I had assumed it would be.
Okay.
I knew it would be tough. I mean, people love scrap, and there's a lot of loyalty to the association, which we're grateful for. From our members all over the world, and they knew us as ISRI. And so we really didn't know after spending 35 years as ISRI how quickly people would adopt to the new name. But it's really caught on. People understand why, and they see the effects and how when we talk to people, we meet people, for example, policymakers, when we're on Capitol Hill or talking to others who aren't really familiar with the industry, as soon as we go with Recycled Materials Association and talk about the products we make, rather than talking about ISRI and scrap, a light bulb goes off. And so we're
Mhm.
really achieving one of the primary goals that we wanted, which is to make our conversations and understanding of the industry much more effective and increase awareness. And that's happened. It's a continual process, though.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the second step in the process was a brand awareness campaign we kicked off here in Washington as our initial priority, and we kicked it off in February. And there have been signs at bus stops, there's been cars that have been wrapped, buses. We've got a social media campaign all around the concept that America is made with recycled materials, and really the world is made with recycled material, and showing that whether it's cars, infrastructure, boxes, they're all made with recycled materials. And, we're what power the supply chain, and that message is getting out. We still have more to do, but it's getting out, and a lot of that is because of the name. So we're really excited about it.
Right. And how this message has been spread. And I am talking about because as far as I'm seeing, melting rates or recycling rates, let's talk about recycling rates because we are talking with you, let's not get into the transformation of the aluminum yet. Let's talk about recycling rates in the US is still not quite high as we can, read. I will say that we are in the way or in the direction that we really are able to start having more conscious about, yes, we can increase recycling rates, and it's something that is doable, but it's something that is needed, right? How
Well,
this message has been spread into the industry, and also are you, let's say, talking with the young generations for them to understand the importance of this industry, because I think it's very important, mostly with what is happening right now, that we want to reindustrialize the US, right?
And first of all, there's no panacea. There's not one thing you can do. There's not one policy
Right.
change, one relationship that will make a difference. But let me start off by saying recycling rates are actually very high. It depends upon the commodity and the product.
Mhm.
If you look at industrial and commercial recycling, those rates are incredibly high. Where we have the lowest recycling rates are when it comes to packaging and in the residential stream. And that's what we really have to work harder on. And
Right.
that's where our relationships are so important. I think a lot of it has to do with the collection side, not necessarily the demand side, but there are issues with regard to working with manufacturers on design for recycling, which we're doing, so that because not everything that is manufactured can be recycled.
Oh,
So we
definitely.
need to make sure that these products can be recycled, those that can be, that they're designed in a way that it is economically and technologically feasible to recycle. So we're working with manufacturers across various sectors on that. It's an issue of awareness, consumers being aware of what goes in the bin and what goes in your trash can instead. And so we're working on various awareness campaigns with the general public. And that's where actually our brand change helps as well, because it
Right.
helps put us out there for that conversation. But you hit on something which is dear to my heart, which is youth outreach. It's working with the next generation, because they are not only those future resident, owners of homes and apartments, etc., and going to be responsible for recycling where they live, but they're also our future policymakers. They're our future journalists. They're, our future operations managers. And so they need to understand our industry, what can be recycled, how you recycle. So we have a partnership with Jason Learning, for example, which is a STEM education program we've had for about a dozen years. We're in K through 12 programs around the country. There's an embedded recycling curriculum that's offered. I think there's 2 million students who are now taking advantage of it. We are also making it available beyond the US. We also have a workforce development program. We're working in colleges and universities to also spread the word about careers in recycling. So there's a lot of different elements to it, and we're trying to hit it in a number of different.
Wow, it's a huge effort. Are you expecting more companies getting more involved into this, like the recycling companies? Because I think in the US, we have something that is very interesting. We have family owners, but we have all these big players all around the US. Are those guys doing some commitment to help you guys to spread these, let's say, direction and intentions, or you are expecting more and more cooperation from other companies in the future?
Well, you're right. I mean, the industry is very heterogeneous. We have everything from small family-owned mom and pop operations to the large multinational.
Right.
And one of the things I'm very proud about at REMA is that everyone has a voice, and we're working with all size companies. And we do have involved very small to the very large companies. And it's always increasing. And one of the exciting things about our convention every year is it's our opportunity to showcase what we can do for members and try to increase engagement. But if anyone out there, any of your listeners are listening right now and want to know how they can get involved, just reach out, and I'm happy to help them get involved and engage.
Definitely. Thank you for that. I think is very it's something that we really need to understand, that it's not the REMA is not just an association that allowed us to have a networking once a year event, but also that is something that we can use in order to spread what we really want to do into the United States from the point of view of the recycling, increasing rates, and rebuilding this industry. How a policy how you propose a policy, and how long take this policy in order to become real? Because it's something that we always talk about policies, but I think we don't really understand what is involved and what it takes in order to make it real.
It's very complicated, and
I can
it's
guess.
very frustrating. It's very frustrating. It's frustrating for us, to be honest.
Definitely.
And especially, unfortunately, over the years, there's been more gridlock, at least here in Washington. So we see more activity on the state level. So one of the things that we've been doing is increasing our efforts on the state level, in addition to our strength on the federal level, and obviously international as well.
Right.
So it does take a village. It takes everyone being involved to monitor what's going on, what's being proposed, to be proactive and push our policy into Congress, into the administrative agencies, into the states, and then continual monitoring and continual activity. There's some things that move very fast, but unfortunately, a lot of policies don't move so fast. I remember when we worked on Superfund back in the 90s, getting the Superfund Recycling Equity Act passed, which was a huge effort and a huge success, saving the industry hundreds of millions of dollars in Superfund liability. But it took about 7 to 8 years, I think, to get that passed. On the other hand, we just had a huge victory last week. That was a matter of weeks. It had to do with the investigation that started actually under the last administration, but what was moved forward much more quickly under the current Trump administration. It was a 301 investigation on shipbuilding to try to strengthen U.S. shipbuilding, concern over the dominance of Chinese on ships and what needs to be done to spur greater strength of the U.S. industry. And so the administration had proposed about a month ago, or 5 weeks ago, a proposal for port fee and significant cost for all Chinese-owned, operated vessels that enter the U.S. and substantial costs over $1 million for each port visit. And it would have significantly impact the costs for exporters and importers. And you know how much we rely on the movement cross-boundary.
Right.
So we appealed to the administration through meetings, hearing, written comments, and I'm pleased to say last week they came out with their final rule. And in there, they have an exemption for bulk commodity ship. They all, which we had asked for, as well as reduce the fees such that it's only one stop versus each stop in the U.S. And there are other details as well. And we're providing that information to members, but you can make a difference, and we can make a difference with the help of our members. And we appreciate the involvement of our members very much, because that helps us identify the issue and the facts that will support our argument to go to the...
Right, definitely. Now that we are talking about China and the new administration, let's get into the dirty talk about what is happening right now, because economy is crazy right now, and it is what it is. And I think everyone is more or less understanding what is happening. Tariff is something that we've been talking in the US for a long time, and other countries has tariff for us, to our products, agricultural products and other products. And I think it's fair in some point. It's fair to have some trade. It is what it is. Now, getting to the point that we are getting right now, that we have huge tariff and no flexibility, how is the REMA position in front of scrap trade and everything? What do you think about it, and how do you feel, guys?
Well, first of all, it's our number one priority these days. We are doing everything we can to advocate for the industry, to obviously try to reduce the burdens on the industry, as well as provide the resources that our members need to stay up to date, because things are changing so fast. It is amazing how, and it's also not just one tariff regime. We're talking about layers of tariffs that are being proposed, and it's very complicated. Some have exemptions for recycled materials, some don't. So understanding what they are, and also, so that's a big element of what we do. We're doing weekly trade and tariff talks for our. We have a resource page with all the information members need that's members only, but we're also working actually with customs officials. Part of the problem is customs officials don't even know how to apply the rule.
Right.
So we're also talking to them. So there's multiple layers to that. Now, with regard to recycled materials, we are being hit in a number of ways. Our industry, as you know, is export oriented. There's net exports of material, but there are imports. Last year, nearly $7 billion worth of recycled materials were imported into the U.S. So we're concerned about the direct impact of the import tariff. We're concerned about any restrictions on exports. And we're concerned about the retaliatory. So and we are making the administration aware. We've hired outside counsel, actually, with expertise and experience in the first Trump administration. So they have access to the folks we need to talk to at the Bureau of International Trade, USTR, Department of Commerce, the White House. But there's also a reality, which is this administration is not issuing a lot of exemptions like they did in the first administration.
Right.
So we're working hard to get the information out there. We're also working with our partners around the world, all the other associations, and keeping them up to date with what's going on as well.
But what do you think is going to be the impact, or what is the impact that you are seeing right now in the, because at the end of the day, we've been through this for a couple of months already, and I think the impact, we are feeling the impact right now. For example, from my side, and I don't want to use this platform to have like a commercial approach, but we are in the business. We provide solutions for the foundry industry, and we are seeing a lot of projects just slowing down because they don't have an idea about what is going on. And it doesn't matter if it's something that will provide more industrialization to the US. They are lacking of labor, they are worried about tariff, they are worried about trading, they are worried about a lot of different things. What is the impact that you are seeing right now in the...
We don't have a quantification of the too early to actually see the numbers.
Definitely.
But we certainly are hearing and are seeing impacts in terms of, if you'd look at just the data on shipments. Shipments are down considerably. Prices are up. Companies are already seeing concerns over equipment costs because there's obviously there's a reliance on parts and equipment from overseas.
Right.
And you're right, we are hearing of companies basically slowing down investment and just trying to sit tight because we know that there is that concern of recessionary, and so companies are reluctant to spend money because they don't know what the future looks like.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest concern, not just within our industry, but I know across the manufacturing economy, which is we need certainty in order to plan and make investments. And that's one of the messages we're trying to send to the administration as well. And we're working actually in concert with other parts of the economy through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the National Association of Manufacturers to get our voice heard with the administration as well about these areas.
Interesting. But my concern, or not my concern, what I am not so sure that I understand is if we want to build again the industry in the U.S., mining, recycling, whatever it is, why we are not moving forward? What do you think? Why we are not moving forward if we really need to rebuild the industry right now? Is because we are scared because we don't know what is going to happen? Is because we are just waiting? Is because, for example, everything that is happening with illegal immigrants is giving us a really, really low hit in the labor side? What do you think it is?
I don't want to speak for the administration. I certainly can't do that. And we support the goal, one of the stated goals of the administration, which is to strengthen U.S. manufacturing. And that is certainly, critical importance to the industry. And we are critically important to supplying that high quality raw material into the U.S. manufacturing supply chain with excess and surplus going into the global market. The challenge, and I agree with you, it's confusing. The challenge is that if strengthening U.S. manufacturing is one goal, but it's hard to do that without and with some of the other contrary goals that the tariff policy, the administration claims tariff policy is trying. And again, I can't speak for the administration. It is confusing. It's confusing for us as well.
Right. What is your position, for example, with Canada, Mexico, that we used to have this free trade, right? And right now, because for example, from the point of view of the aluminum industry, let's talk about billets. Billets, United States mostly use around 7 million tons a year of aluminum billet. We import from Canada 3.2 million tons a year, roughly, and we just produce 900,000. So we have a huge gap right there that we need to fill with or overseas material or start building it here. But it's going to take at least three years to build a secondary aluminum facility and at least 10 years for a primary. So how easy is to replace all these? I don't know. So what is your, let's say, position, and what do you feel about Canada, Mexico, and the relationship we have right now with the United States?
We are REMA is a strong believer in the need for global market access and then the importance of relationships with all of our trading partners, including Canada and Mexico. Personally, I will say that it's been very hard to watch because I know how, and it's just personal, it's also from REMA's perspective, we know how integrated our supply chains are and our relationships. And you can't replace those overnight. And I don't think it's in our best interest as a country or as an industry to be try to replace all of those relationships. And we don't have the material, and I'm not just talking about recycled materials, but there are other products we don't have here in the US. We need to rely on friends for those materials. And so I do worry about the harm that's being created right now in with those relationships. And I'm a big believer in not only the global integration of our supply chains and the importance of that, but also in the soft power, what comes from those relationships.
Right.
We talk about the U.S. recycled materials industry is a net exporter, and there are so many benefits that brings our country. It not only helps with the reducing the trade deficit, but it also helps with our country's global competitiveness. So those relationships are critical, and it's hard to see the damage that's being.
Oh, definitely. What if I ask you about what is REMA, for example, REMA proposal to reduce that impact? What can be a really good proposal from your side in order to not damage this friendship? Because it's getting hurt right now, right?
Yes, it is. Well, I will tell you that a lot of that is beyond us.
Right.
But certainly we're doing everything we can, at least industry to industry, working with our counterparts around the world, in Mexico, in Canada, and outside of North America. And I'm really excited, actually. At the convention, we're going to have the leaders of the Canadian industry, of Kerry. We've been in conversations with INARI in Mexico. We've got BIR, the leadership from BIR, from Europe, from Chinese Non-Ferrous Association, from the Materials Recycling Association of India, the Brazilians, Nicaraguans, Chile. They're all coming to our convention. And that is an opportunity for us to talk about that global trade and talk about the importance of the relationships we have, and continuing that despite what happened above us between our governments, that we still have those strong ties and relations.
What they said about what is their feel, these different countries that are attached to REMA, and that you have a really good relationship, because at the end of the day, I think the recycling industry is very important in the US. So how important is this industry, and how your partners are seeing everything that is happening? What is their
we have a common position, our common position globally, led by BIR, but with the strength of all of the national associations, is the importance of global market access. And so there is, it's wonderful to see that consensus and that strength among us as we're all taking that same position. But there's also a lot of confusion and concern. And so we've been having individual conversations with our partners. Just actually about 2 weeks ago, Adam Schaefer, who's our VP of International Trade and Global Affairs, who's leading a lot of our work in this area, is doing an amazing job, he and I had a call with our German counterpart at VDM, and we held a webinar for their members. I think there were over 60 or 70 of their members on the call where we talked about what was happening in the US. And just the other day, the Bureau of Middle East Recycling reached out, and they want to have a conversation with us. So we're making ourselves available, having those conversations, letting them know what we know, and working together as best as.
So what you're saying is REMA position is being open to everyone in order to work as a group, work as a team, not losing the global, let's say, approach, right? And not just to get involved in internal market, but be open to help as much as we can. Even though if the administration is above us, we are really, really, let's say, ready to keep working together.
Absolutely, because the bottom line is the health of our industry here in the US is dependent upon those global markets. You shut off those global markets, there's a flood of material which does not help us, and it will stifle innovation, it'll stifle growth. And so it's critically important that we have that global market access for the health of the US industry and the global.
Definitely. How important is the recycling industry?
We do, as I think you know, an updated independent study every year by a third party to evaluate our impact on the U.S. economy. And we updated the study earlier this year, and the numbers keep going up. We're about $170 billion in economic activity here in the U.S., supporting 600,000 jobs.
Right. How do you think these numbers will increase if we keep the tariff and start building the industry, or those numbers will increase even better if we can, if we keep cooperating with all the world as we are doing right now, and focusing on increasing our recycling rates here and making the industry stronger, but in an easy way? What do you think about it?
We have continued to grow over the decades. And certainly just if you look at the last 10 years, we've gone from 130 billion to 170 billion just under 10 years. So, but that growth is dependent upon global market. So that growth will definitely slow down if the tariffs remain. And so we are very concerned.
Wow. Yeah, I'm totally agree with you. And I mean, it's scary because we really don't know what is going on. And we have we have faith that everything is going to turn in the right direction, right? Section 323,
Yes.
right? What do you think about it? Because in 2018 was 10% tariff on the aluminum. Right now, I think it's 5. It's crazy. Do you think it's going to change? Do you think it's going to remain the same? What is those policies that is hitting that section that much that is allowed us not or is not allowed us to have this good tariff that we used to have before? And what is the impact we will
Well,
see?
the Section 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum were reinstated by the Trump administration. I guess it was last month. And what's different about the 232 that was implemented on aluminum now versus in the first administration is that they have basically gotten rid of all the exemptions.
Right.
So there were country exemptions before that have now disappeared, as well as product exemptions. The good news is that recycled materials are not part of it. So for that tariff regime, recycled materials are not included. But we are concerned about other 232 investigation that are continuing. There's a 232 on copper that was initiated that does include our materials and includes export restriction. So we're very concerned about that and have been very aggressively working with our partners and working with the administration, talking to them about the importance of the export trade and trying to make sure that they don't set that precedent, because it would be the first time that a 232 investigation included an export restriction. So we're more concerned at this point, we're concerned about all of it, but we're more concerned about the new investigations that are coming over the horizon.
What do you think is going to give us an answer though? Tricky question.
I wish I had a crystal ball.
I
We're again working with outside counsel, which with great expertise in this area, and they're very hopeful. I can't say there's any guarantee, but they're very hopeful that we'll be successful.
Right. Do you think this new administration is too flexible in order that we will not keep the sustainable path that we've been working for the last years? You know, not to put many attention to landfills. We want to reduce the CO2 emissions. But with Trump, we will have fracking, mining again. That I am not saying is wrong. I think we need to, in some point, get involved into that again, because at the end, it's going to support the economy, and it's good if we have the good practice. But I am seeing a lot of flexibility here from the point of view of regulations. Do you think it's going to impact the way that we were like walking into this green path, or do you think it's not going to impact and people will keep trying to invest in green technology?
It's a great question. And the truth is, again, it's one of those I don't have a crystal ball on. With everything going on with tariffs, there hasn't been much attention to what's happening with EPA and on the sustainability front. There's definitely a slower progression towards, for example, electric vehicles, which we have our eye on because of going to mean increased aluminum in autos. There's going to be there are a lot of issues, both pros and cons with batteries, lithium-ion batteries. There's safety issues, there are insurance issues and other issues. So we have our eye on that, but that is moving more slowly under this administration. There are some positives with what Administrator Zeldin is doing with evaluating all of the regulations that EPA has issued, because there are some regulations that do need to be amended. But how fast they're going to move on the sustainability front, it's a little bit unclear.
Right, definitely, yeah. China, what is your position from the REMA with China? Because at the end of the day, we depend a lot of China, right? Microchip, rare earth, because at the end, if you want to increase the, let's say, the industry here, and you want to rebuild the industry, you need to talk about automation, robots, AI, but we depend a lot of China market. How do you feel this is impacting the relationship that we are seeing right now, impacting the industry? And how do you feel about that, for example, the associate?
Well, again, the good news is that we have two actually associations from China representing recycled materials industry coming to our convention in 3 weeks. So we have that discussion, the open dialogue occurring. And that's continuing. And it is important to us because we need to know what's happening in China vis-a-vis the industry, because it is still an important trading partner. It's no
Right.
longer number one, but it is an important trading partner for us. And so we need to understand what's happening in the country. At the same time, I think this goes to one of your earlier questions about the relationships with China, Mexico, and other countries. Under the first Trump administration, and continuing really through Biden, there was a movement of manufacturing out of China, not to have not as great reliance on China, and instead they were following the friendshoring was the term that
Right.
was used. Instead, for things that we just don't have capacity to manufacture here, or the materials we don't have here, to partner with friendly countries to source those materials. And so a lot of shifts were made out of China into these other countries. And now we have the problem that, and the country has the problem that those relationships are now being damaged. So I think it's just as much of a story of how we work with other countries as much as how we work with.
Right. How we can rebuild those relations? I mean, I know it's a very complicated question and we don't have the answer. But what do you think? You've been in the industry for a long time and you've been the president of the association for 27 years already, something like that. So I am pretty sure that you've been through a lot of different discussions, policy, right? And you are one of these, let's say, key person that saw the industry growing and moving in so many different directions, right? So the partnership moving up and down, and if will depend on you, what is going to be those, let's say, behaviors that we need to have right now in order to rebuild those relations and not to throw the industry to the toilet, for saying in some way, right? Call it whatever you call, but what is going to be your advice?
I think again, we can't control what the government does.
Definitely.
We have our vote and we can lobby, but beyond that, we really can't control. But what we can do is control our own action and set an example by what we do. And from REMA's perspective and my perspective, and I believe this so strongly, it's important that we have the positive relationships with our partners around the world and set an example. And we're the ambassadors for the U.S. industry. That's my job, is to be an ambassador for the U.S. recycled materials industry. And I take that job very seriously. And it's very important to therefore let our partners know around the world how much we value them, how important the business relationships are, so that we can ease the business that our members do with those countries.
Right.
And so that will continue and will just strengthen over time, hopefully.
Definitely, completely agreed. Robin, what we can expect on the event that we will have in 3 weeks? What is going on there? What we will see? And is any type of conference that we will have talking about this with different partners around the globe?
Yes.
I'll be there, of course. I have my booth, as always. I loved it. For me, it's the best show in the United States that you can have decision makers, people that is really interested in moving the industry forward. So I loved it. But what we can expect? Tell me more, because this is going to be the first one REMA show, right?
Yes, it's the first REMA convention, and I can't be more excited. It's going to be fantastic. There's so many things that we're doing and that we're offering during the course of those 3 or 4 days that will really hopefully provide members and attendees with the resources they need to go home and continue to strengthen their own business. So it's everything from certainly the networking events that you're familiar with that happen throughout the week, commodity specific networking events. We've got young executive networking events. We have after hours parties, many parties and events throughout the week to help you develop those business relationships. But we're also bringing in industry leaders and stakeholders that are going to provide the information you need for your businesses to help them grow and understand what the future looks like. Everything from, we're having actually on Wednesday morning, we've added to our general session, Curtis, make sure I got his name right, Curtis Dubé. He's the chief economist for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Is going to come and talk to us about the state of the economy, where the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, for all of business in the U.S., sees the future looking like, especially in light of what's happening, what we've been talking about for the last hour on tariffs. We've got Jay Timmon, the president of the National Association of Manufacturers, talking on Wednesday afternoon about what he sees in the future of manufacturing and how recycled materials and supply chain factors into what's happening within the manufacturing economy here in the US. We have, it's just aluminum specific. We've got a fantastic spotlight. As you know, we do spotlights on all the major commodities. And I'm just looking at my sheet to make sure I get all the names right. We've got Daniel Freeberg, a research engineer from Ford Motor Company, Gary Gallo, the senior manager of end-of-life recycling for Novelis, the largest aluminum recycler in the world, Gabriella Vagnini, managing editor of Aluminum Market Update for CRU Group, and Neil Bice, the owner of CW Metals. And they're going to be talking about the changes in technologies that allow us to create higher grades of aluminum to meet the needs of our customers. We're going to be talking about what the future of manufacturing looks like, of auto manufacturing in particular. There's a lot of focus actually on auto manufacturing throughout the week. In addition to what's happening at the aluminum spotlight, at the ferrous spotlight, we've got Toyota with us, as well as the representative from the Automotive Innovation Alliance, or Alliance of Automotive Innovation. I've probably got their name wrong. But it's basically the association for the auto industry within the US, speaking to us about, again, future of auto and how that's going to change, material composition needs, supply chain impact, technology changes for processing the material. What happens with that EV battery? Our electronic spotlight is going to be focusing on a lot of those issues. We've got Samsung and a number of others. In our tire spotlight, we've got Michelin and a number of other manufacturers talking to us. So we're really trying to, consistent with our rebrand and the focus on manufacturing supply chain and our customers, we're really focusing much more on the customer and what their needs are and how our members can prepare their materials to make sure that they meet the needs of the future supply. Now, we also have for the first time a safety pavilion, which I'm really excited about.
Okay.
Safety's always been a core value of REMA in the industry, but we're having now a focus on it with a whole pavilion in partnership with the San Diego Fire Department. And we are going to have a lot of activity and information and resources about all of the safety concerns in the industry and how to operate safely. We're going to have some controlled burn to help members know what to do in the case of a fire. So there's a lot of exciting things happening throughout the week. And that's in addition to obviously the great general speakers we have. We have one of our main speakers, the Jesse Colo and Savannah Bananas, who's gotten a lot of press recently. He's going to speak to us about innovation and how to actually bring a brand forward and how to build a business. So there's a lot going on that we're very excited about.
Yeah, I can tell. I mean, I'm excited to be there right now. Why you choose San Diego instead of Las Vegas?
Well, we do try to we're in Las Vegas every other year, so
Right.
every even year. And the odd year we're all around the country. We've been in Orlando, New Orleans, Nashville, San Diego. And the reason I'll just share with everyone, the reason we're in May this year is because during COVID, we canceled the 2020 convention. We had insurance. 2021, we had to cancel. We did not have insurance, and we were facing a liability of over $1.5 million, and that was to be in San Diego. And so in order to, we negotiated away that penalty by rescheduling another convention in San Diego, which is this year's convention, and they only had a May date, not an April date. So that's why we're in.
Well, Robin, if I may, I think also something that is important from the safety point of view is to start talking, because I think the industry needs to learn a little bit more from the transformation of the scrap into some useful aluminum product. I think, and maybe it's important for the next show to have it, how important it is to understand how to handle the scrap before putting it into a melting furnace in order to avoid explosions and damage or whatever it is. I think it's something also that we need to be aware in the industry, because I'm seeing a lot of different practices. They are not the best ones, and they are putting a lot of people in risk because they just don't know, right? So just as a comment.
No, and I appreciate you sharing that. And certainly, and I appreciate you doing that, especially on this forum, because one of the things members should know is that we need to hear these things. If there's something we're not addressing, whether it's a policy issue, a safety concern, whatever, let me know, and I'll share it with our VP of Safety and make sure it's something we focus on.
Robin, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I always, as I said at the beginning, it's an honor to having you in this podcast. For me, it's incredible to have you here. I've been working a lot on this to try to give the people as much as knowledge, information about the industry and what is happening out there, so they can have at least a little bit of piece of information that they can use for themselves in order to grow. So thank you so much, and see you in 3 weeks.
See you in 3 weeks. See you in San Diego. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Dirty
Bye.
Scrap Podcast.